Percy Flowers is known for having fast dogs. And a fast dog don't always run a fox like a lot of people think he should be running. And in other words, he's using his wits to run him with. He's not using the smell of that fox he's looking for.
I've been in this county 21 years, a little over 21 years, and I've been working white liquor cases for probably 19 of those 21 years. And a lot of the moonshiners know who I am. I know who they are. Now, where they keep their steels at, that is a very secretive, they're not going to tell me. They'll wave their hand at me when we pass on the road or I see them at the store. And they know that I know who they are. And of course, they know me.
And that's what it's about right there, the thrill of the chase.
It's just an old tradition, and here in Johnston County there is a very large tradition of moonshiners.
It's for years we only had fox here, and we could hunt on the outside. And you know, like this morning, we would have tried to get after a gray fox, and you know, the object of the game was to catch him. That game's changed a lot. You know, for us, we don't want to catch him. It's not to our advantage to catch him. We've lost a valuable piece of game, you know, and you can't run him but once if you catch him. I mean, it's only one race, so he gets away more times than he gets caught.
They'll say, "Fish, I'm not as big as Percy was, you know, I'm just in it small time." And but every moonshiner that I've ever met that we've actually talked some, if Percy's name came up, Percy was the king of moonshining in Johnston County. And I think unless somebody really steps up, Percy will always hold that title in Johnston County.
Percy Flowers was probably one of the smartest human beings I ever met. What he did to make a living farming and the other things he did to make a living, hunting was just a part of that. It was all blended together in his daily activities. He was out to win. He was going to be successful in whatever he did. Whatever he put his hands or his mind to, he was going to win at it. If it was checkers, if it was cards, if it was dogs, if it was chickens, if it was business, he was there to win. You didn't want to match wits with Percy Flowers.
Percy Flowers was a good man. I tell you, I don't care what nobody says, he was a good man. He helped all the poor people. He sure did.
As you can see, my grandmother, she's 96 years old, and she still, if you ask her something about Percy Flowers, he was a good man. And if you ask her something bad, she'll say, "I don't know anything about it." And that's, you know, that's just the way she's lived and the way she'll live till she dies. She'll never say anything bad about them because they were good to her and she was good to them. Grandma, I'm talking about my daddy.
Yeah,
Jig used to drive the car for him when they were hauling liquor to Wilson.
Well, I didn't know that, Richie. But I everywhere he go, he do something for somebody. I didn't know it all. I didn't hear it all, but the most of it.
My grandmother's Polly Boykin. She was born November the 5th, 1914.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. Polly Boykin don't drink liquor. I've never drank none in my life.
My grandfather was Benji Boykin, who became Mr. Percy's. He was known as Sugar Daddy through making liquor for Mr. Percy. My father was called Jig Boykin, and he hauled liquor for Mr. Percy.
I know he didn't. I know he was in prison that time the wrong way because he sure did not. He didn't have nothing to do with that liquor. No, he didn't.
Well, my grandfather was arrested, as she told you, and he went to prison. And when Mr. Percy got home, then he started, giving my grandmother and the family money to survive on. Because all my grandfather was, his name was Sugar Daddy, and that's what he did. He made liquor. Well, it was a way of life. People had to do it to survive. The purpose of it was to, make income for people's families. And, took somebody like Mr. Percy Flowers, he was the bootlegger of all bootleggers. And he kept the whole community. A whole area there. Well, I think he owned 10,000 acres, and he kept the whole community surviving, And it was just, he was loyal to the people, and people were loyal to him. We don't consider it bad. It was a way of making a living. It's no different than anywhere else where people, if they raise hogs for a living or chicken farmers or whatever, that's what they have to do to survive, and that's what was done. They lived, that was a way of life, and that was a way to feed your family, so that's what they did.
We would stop in the store and go in there and get a drink or something, and he would be in the store, and it would be like, they would be like God, Jesus Christ, and then over there sat Percy. That's how he was considered in this part of the country when we were children. He was just that type of individual. I heard a lot of stories about him and whiskey, and I can't substantiate that he ever made any whiskey. I can't substantiate that he ever sold any whiskey because I never saw him do either. And obviously I'm not in a minority because the government charged him, I think the record says about 17 times, and they never could convict him of selling or making whiskey, which to me says a lot about him and his cunning.
It's a hard craft. A lot of the moonshiners that I know today, they'll get out there and they'll work from dark to dark, making their moonshine. Whereas a lot of the kids nowadays, they're actually too lazy. They're going to grow their marijuana and sell their cocaine and their pills. And a lot of the old guys that are out here doing it, they might be doing it a little slow, but they're doing it every day. They don't run, they don't fight. Most of the time, the moonshiners welcome you at the door, and they'll pretty much tell you, "Fish, I knew you were coming sooner or later." They might lie to you every now and then, but you can't hold a man. You can't blame a man for lying to the cops, I guess, every now and then.
Percy's dogs were winning so many field trials that it was disheartening to other hunters. He had too much of an advantage, and they came up with a rule that they called cunning running, and that meant that the dog wasn't running the fox true. In other words, he wasn't behind him, he was getting in front of the pack and seeing the fox. And it penalized Percy's dogs a lot because that's what they would do. They were fast, they ran for the front. It was very odd that after he died, very soon afterwards, the cunning running rule was abolished, and they went back to the way things were. But fox hunting will never be what it was before he came through, as well as a lot of other things. He did a lot to enhance a lot of things in our part of the world.
It'll never stop. As long as somebody has a recipe, there will always be somebody willing to go out there and do the work to cook it. Just, if nothing else, not for the liquor so much as for the prestige of it. And I'd be willing to put my life on that one.
I asked him one day, I said, Percy, they tell me that you made and sold a bunch of whiskey. And he said, made it or had it made? Sold it or had it sold? And that was his comment.
Good morning, Judge, what may be my fine? Good morning, Judge, what may be my fine? Good morning, Judge, what may be my fine? $50, 11.29. They arrest me for murder and I ain't never harmed a man. Arrest me for murder and I ain't never harmed.
Well, Percy was going to shoot the snake off of Joel's pants with that little, always kept a little snub-nosed .38 in his pocket. And he was going to shoot the snake off Joel's breeches leg.
Arrest me for murder.
Anyway, he said they should put a fence around Johnson County and just lock them all up. A federal judge in Wilmington, North Carolina. That's how bad it was. He said because it's just a band of crooks and they do crooked things, and we should just fence Johnson County up and just let them all have fun and forget about them.
Some got 6 months. Some got a solid year.
So our family began running small hosiery mills and textile plants. On my father's side, his father actually ran hosiery mills as far back as 1950s. On my mom's side, her sisters actually went to New York, graduated from New York's School of Fashion. After that, they moved into the Southeast in Texas to start garment manufacturing. And they made garments for companies such as Rose's when they first opened up, and JCPenney. And she did that until she retired.
Small towns in North Carolina traditionally were built on three industries: tobacco, textiles, and furniture. Those industries have all downsized, and you can see in the data for North Carolina a real distinction between economic growth in the metro areas, the big cities, and much lower economic growth in small town and rural North Carolina. So quite frankly, small town North Carolina faces a challenge of finding out what the next economy will be for them. What can they latch on to thrive?
Martha and I both obviously met working in manufacturing years ago. So we actually learned to work together before we were even married. And for me, I think it was spending decades working for very large companies. It really came down to the point where we decided it was time that we actually reach out and try to do something ourselves and see how it worked. For us, the hardest thing to do was to walk away from our comfortable professional careers. That was probably the most difficult thing to do, to resign from your job and wake up the next day and saying, okay, here we are. Where's the income going to come from? That's an awakening. But I can honestly tell you, for us, it lasted one day, and then we never looked back. We wanted to keep our costs down, and also we understood the value of time and again, cost. So we started off with one single product, one patent that we had, and that's basically how we started. On the hill in our barn was actually sewing fabric for the military. Obviously, people that live in Robbins and surrounding areas, and even people as far as west, who are gun historians and enthusiasts, Robbins has a very deep history in making rifles. It's not the reason why we started the plant here, but it's really nice to know that culture existed here, and it only helps. I mean, it can't hurt us, and it's a great asset for the town to point back to, is that history. So hopefully we do as good as they did.
I think Robbins faces some of the same problems that many, many smaller municipalities in North Carolina face, and that is they grew for whatever historic reason. You know, it was the turn of the 1900s. There were just mills popping up all over the South. They had this specific history of Mechanics Hill, and then a lot of that just disappeared.
Around 17 years old, I looked at my mom one day and said, I'm tired of seeing what's going on in Robbins and leadership, and I'm going to run for an office when it's time. And I made it very vocal to a lot of the leaders. I tried to reach out to the leaders at the time and was pretty much turned away. So I would encourage anybody, any young person, to always ask and never give up, and just don't listen to naysayers. You know, we all have our own minds and ways, and that was back when I was 17 years old. I'm now 47 years old, and I'm now on my second term as a commissioner. Was a town planning board member and chairman for 4 years before that. So I've been involved in Robbins government now for almost 10 years, and I won't run again. Until they vote me out, I'll be here.
So when I hear about what Commissioner Boswell's doing with war sport, I'm both really excited because I think it's homegrown business, but I'm kind of not that surprised, because if it was going to happen, I mean, it's going to be someone picking themselves up by the bootstraps and doing it.
Growing up as a child and seeing my family run successful businesses and manufacturing explicitly, in my mind, you could do it here, and that never changed in my mind. Now, other people through the years and loss of manufacturing, they may not have seen that, but I lived it.
I think when you have a homegrown company made up of people who know the area, who have a family tie to the area, maybe they've seen the small town go from glory days to not so much glory days, and they're able to find investors, build a company. I think there's probably a greater likelihood that they will stay, because I think they have not only an economic goal, but they have a social goal of seeing their small town do well.
It's most people go to school, go to college, get a degree, and move. I think the first block that comes into any play, a young kid today, including my own, was it ain't gonna be here. When you got your hands in something, you don't look at it in the perspective of, wow, this is the first one. You know, your thoughts are completely different at that point. Now, where we're at today, and I walk in this building and I'm not building them, but I see them coming off a production line, that actually impresses me. That I go, wow. That to me is amazing. We're still a town that can bring manufacturing and support it. Meaning the town can support us, which they do. And the town can support the infrastructure, which they have. So I would hope, in regards from what does Warsport mean to the town of Robbins, is that manufacturing can come back here, live here, and succeed.
Barbers sometimes can be a counselor. It could be a prayer warrior, somebody to vent to. It might be somebody having a problem that they can't tell nobody else. And you know, sometimes that's what we're here for.
Okay, well, ain't gonna be bad.
My name is Coop. Actually Jimmy Cooper, but they call me Coop. Like to see people look good. Our motto is when new images are formed. So that's just what we do. Barbershop was established in 2001. We started off in a little smaller building at the time because it's a small town, and we had to. Once we moved in, we set up a nice place. We kind of struggled for a little while, but people started coming, hearing about it. So we moved here, and it's been pretty decent. I like the diversity. We have all different cultures of people that comes in. They feel comfortable. Atmosphere is good. They feel comfortable bringing their kids, their wife in. Everybody gets along. We have a few comedians. We have some people that come through and tell us a good story and a good lie every now and then. So we get a kick out of that. We have a guy that comes by and do magic tricks, and it's pretty good.
That is so cool. That's crazy.
A lot of people, a lot of folks is moving this way because it's a little slower. And a lot of, it's a lot of stuff that's happening in the upstate and the cities where they come from. So they like to come down to kind of mellow out a little bit. The more retired people you have, the more knowledge you get. So, by listening to them, I like listening to them because I learn different things. We have a no profanity clause that, the reason I put that up is to respect everyone else. We have pastors, preachers, ladies that comes in, and we would like for people to respect them, so we try to keep our profanity down at a limit. Sometimes we get kind of wound up, but we check our surroundings first. Yeah, we fuss a lot about sports. We get into it pretty heavy. you know, during sports times. We have all our drag out sometime in here. The shop is here really for the community. You know, I couldn't close it because the community needs it.
Me and my kids, we actually come every 2 weeks to get our haircut. It's something that we do every other Saturday. We come here to get our haircut. So this is really no particular reason, just grooming. As you can see, I don't have much to cut. You know, Coop, he knew my parents whenever they were younger, so yeah, we actually went to school together. Came here for my best friend's wedding. Come here before birthdays, before going out on dates with my wife. So yeah, I rely on these guys a lot and depend on them a lot to keep me tightened up.
Keep it fresh and dead.
Got to.
It'll be here for a long time, I think. Even if I'm not here, it'll still be here. That's it. All right.